little ones don't sit on big boys' laps or people that you don't know, or even family members, unless it's your daddy.
Whether it's from watching TLC's 19 Kids and Counting or watching the downfall of the family that was once known for Christian family values, most know about Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar and their brood of J-named, blanket-trained children. It's been nearly 4.5 years since their son, Josh Duggar, was convicted for receiving CSAM material, a conviction that officially halted the last of the spin-off shows highlighting the family. And while the series has finally come to an end, their scandals and alleged sins have not. Because this week, another Duggar child, Josh's younger brother, has been arrested for sexual crimes against a child. Yes, deja vu, anyone? In today's episode, we are going to break down everything we know about Joseph Duggar's recent arrest and charges. We're also going to refresh on Josh's case and walk through the family's history, because I think the question that lingers for many of us is, how can two children from the same conservative Christian family, one that promotes morals and chastity for years, starring on television promoting these family values nonetheless, how can they now both be behind bars, charged with harming children, both of them? Here at Hidden True Crime, our focus is on the hidden motives, what lies hidden behind the facade, behind the crimes, and behind the criminals. And I suspect when it comes to the Duggars, there is so much more to be uncovered. I'm Lauren Matthias, and this is Hidden True Crime. On March 18th, 31-year-old Joseph Duggar was taken into custody and booked into the Washington County Jail in Fayetteville, Arkansas, awaiting extradition to Florida. His charge: lewd and lascivious behavior involving unlawful sexual activity with a minor. According to the Bay County Sheriff's Office in Florida, investigators were contacted on March 18th, the same day as the arrest, by a detective with the Tontitown Police Department. And for reference, Tontitown, Arkansas is the location of the Duggar family's well-known home. In a statement, the Bay County Sheriff's Office said a 14-year-old girl participated in a forensic interview, during which she disclosed multiple alleged incidents involving Joseph Duggar that occurred during a family vacation in Panama City Beach when she was just 9 years old. According to investigators, the incidents took place in 2020 while the family was staying at a residence on Danny Drive. The victim reported that Duggar repeatedly asked her to sit on his lap. As the vacation continued, she said he asked her to sit next to him on a couch, and then Joseph covered both of them with a blanket. And during these interactions, she alleges that Duggar manipulated her underwear, grazed her genitals, and rubbed her thighs. The victim stated that Duggar later apologized for his actions and that the behavior stopped following that apology. Investigators said the victim's father confronted Duggar about the allegations on March 17, 2026. And according to law enforcement, Duggar admitted to the conduct to both the victim's father and detectives with the Tontitown Police Department. Duggar was arrested out of state and is now facing those charges of lewd and lascivious behavior, including molestation of a victim under 12 years old, as well as lewd conduct by a person 18 years or older. As of right now, he looks to be awaiting extradition to Bay County. So who exactly is Joseph Duggar? Joseph Duggar, 31, is the seventh child in the Duggar family and the third son, just after Josh and John David. He has been married to his wife Kendra since 2017, and they have 4 young children. To better understand the broader context of who Joseph is, I think it's vital to look back at the history of the Duggar family. Joseph Duggar is, again, he's the 7th of the 19 children behind Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar's TLC empire. The family rose to fame after they began appearing on TLC in 2004 with a special called 14 Kids and Pregnant Again, which showed Jim Bob and pregnant Michelle with their 14 children, whose names, again, each started with J. In 2006, a show was launched titled 16 Kids and Counting, and the show title continually evolved with each additional J-named child's birth until they landed on 19 Kids and Counting once their youngest child, Josie, joined the cast in 2010. They were known for their strict family values and involvement with the Institute of Basic Life Principles organization. The Basic Life Principles organization, or Institute of Basic Life Principles organization, is also known as the IBLP, which I'll now call for the rest of this episode. It was founded by Christian minister Bill Gothard. Gothard didn't just teach how to be more like Jesus, but also dished up instructions on how to raise children within a strict value system. Jim Bob and Michelle would speak and preach at IBLP events and promote its family teachings and value system on their show. The show ran until 2015, but then was subsequently canceled after news broke that while growing up, their oldest son Josh had molested 4 of his younger sisters and another young girl. And just months after the shocking molestation claims, Josh was then outed as a user of the platform Ashley Madison. It's a website for cheating partners after Josh's email address was highlighted during the infamous data leak of the site. In 2015, amidst the scandals, Josh resigned from his position as director of FRC Action, the lobbying arm of the Family Research Council, a conservative Christian organization that opposes same-sex marriage and abortion while promoting marriage between a man and wife, as well as promoting family as the foundation of society. After the scandals and abuse allegations involving Josh Duggar, along with the resignation, a TLC spin-off show was launched. But this time, this show was without Josh, Counting On, marking a fresh and hopefully more wholesome chapter. And while for a time it worked, that show too was canceled in 2021 after Josh Duggar found himself in the news once again. And this time he faced horrific charges that went well beyond family secrets. It was April of 2021 when he was arrested for possessing hundreds of photos of CSAM. According to authorities, Josh, quote, repeatedly downloaded and viewed images and videos depicting of children, including images of prepubescent children and depictions of sadistic, end quote. And after years of highlighting the life of the Duggars with spinoff after spinoff, TLC officially closed the doors to anything Duggar and have steered clear of the family ever since. Josh was convicted and remains behind bars, serving a 151-month sentence.
I don't think there's any way any of us would have known that my brother's living such a secret life.
But let's go back to 2015 again, when it came out that Josh had molested his sisters and another girl, a family babysitter, but before the charges of 2021, right? So back in 2015, the family very quickly released statements. Jim Bob and Michelle released a statement that read, quote, back 12 years ago, our family went through one of the most difficult times of our lives. When Josh was a young teenager, he made some very bad mistakes and we were shocked. We had tried to teach him right from wrong. That dark and difficult time caused us to seek God like never before. Even though we would never choose to go through something so terrible, each one of our family members drew closer to God. We pray that as people watch our lives, they see that we are not a perfect family. We have challenges and struggles every day. It is one of the reasons we treasure our faith so much, because God's kindness and goodness and forgiveness are extended to us, even though we are so undeserving. We hope somehow the story of our journey, the good times and the difficult times, cause you to see the kindness of God and learn that He can bring you through anything, end quote. And then Josh himself stated, quote, 12 years ago, as a young teenager, I acted inexcusably, for which I am extremely sorry and deeply regret. I hurt others, including my family and close friends. I confessed this to my parents, who took several steps to help me address the situation. We spoke with the authorities, where I confessed my wrongdoing, and my parents arranged for me and those affected by my actions to receive counseling. I understood that if I continued down this wrong road, that I would end up ruining my life. I sought forgiveness from those I had wronged and asked Christ to forgive me and come into my life. I would do anything to go back to those teen years and take different actions. In my life today, I am so very thankful for God's grace, mercy, and redemption. End quote. And then Josh's own wife, Anna, wrote this, quote, I can imagine the shock many of you are going through reading this. I remember feeling that same shock. It was not at the point of engagement or after we were married. It was 2 years before Josh asked me to marry him. When my family and I first visited the Duggar home, Josh shared his past teenage mistakes. I was surprised at his openness and humility, and at the same time didn't know why he was sharing it. For Josh, he wanted not just me, but my parents to know who he really was, even every difficult past mistake. At that point, and over the next 2 years, Josh shared how the counseling he received changed his life as he continued to do what he was taught. And when you, our sweet fans, first met me, when Josh asked me to marry him, I was able to say yes, knowing who Josh really is, someone who had gone down a wrong path and had humbled himself before God and those whom he had offended, someone who had received the help needed to change the direction of his life and to do what is right. I want to say thank you to those who took the time over a decade ago to help Josh in a time of crisis. Your investment changed his life from going down the wrong path to doing what is right. If it weren't for your help, I would not be here as his wife, celebrating 6.5 years of marriage to a man who knows how to be a gentleman and treat a girl right. Thank you to all of you who tirelessly work with children in crisis. You are changing lives, and I am forever grateful for all of you. End quote. And then the Ashley Madison scandal hit. There have definitely been times in my life where I could have really used therapy, but trying to actually find someone who takes your insurance and is the right fit, that alone can feel overwhelming. That's why Rula stands out to me. Rula is a healthcare provider group that makes it easier to connect with licensed therapists who actually accept your insurance. They partner with over 100 insurance plans, and the average copay is about $15 per session, which makes real mental health so much more accessible. And it's not just about affordability. Rula really focuses on matching you with someone who fits you, your goals, your preferences, your situation. No wait lists, no endless searching. You can often get an appointment as soon as tomorrow. Thousands of people are already using Rula to get affordable, high-quality therapy that's actually covered by insurance. Visit rula.com/hidden to get started. After you sign up, you'll be asked how you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know we sent you. Turns out Josh had been on the website Ashley Madison having extramarital affairs. So much for being a gentleman who knew how to treat a girl right. The public was watching the family's statements not just fall flat, but crash and burn. And Josh checked into a residential treatment center for months. After that, publicly, it looked like the family was determined to move forward. That was until Josh was arrested years later in April 2021. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, Duggar installed a password-protected partition on a hard drive of his desktop computer at his used car lot in Springdale to avoid detecting software on the device. He then accessed the partition to download sex abuse material from the internet multiple times over the course of 3 days in May 2019. The password for this partition was the same one he used for other personal and family accounts. Duggar downloaded the material using the dark web and online file sharing software, viewed it, and then removed it from his computer. Charging docs state he possessed hundreds of photos of CSAM. According to authorities, Josh repeatedly downloaded and viewed images and videos depicting the of children, including, again, images of prepubescent children and depictions of sadistic abuse. In total, it was around 600 images and 7 videos of violent child material that Josh had downloaded. Authorities had traced those downloads to the car lot Josh owned, showing that he was spending his time at work viewing this material. Now, some law enforcement have described what was in Josh's possession as the worst that they have ever seen. Again, violent, sadistic, abusive of children, even babies. Despite being convicted and sentenced, his wife Anna has seemingly remained committed to their marriage. The two of them have been married since 2008 and have 7 children together. The 7th, ironically, named Madison. Yikes. She was born after Josh's arrest. Anna had actually announced her pregnancy with Madison just days before the arrest. Since Josh's conviction, Anna has rarely been seen in the public eye. For years, she was allegedly quietly raising her children on the Duggar family property, although some sources say she has moved off of the property within the last year. Josh is currently working on a motion to vacate his conviction after his appeal was denied. He recently hired attorney Bo Brindley, who is best known for being singer R. Kelly's attorney. Yeah. According to KNWA News, in Josh's motion to vacate his conviction, he lists 8 claims alleging, quote, that the government withheld evidence, witnesses provided false testimony, a Department of Justice expert manipulated digital evidence, and TLC and Discovery Communications released statements attributed to him without consent. Duggar also claims the court's retrieval of juvenile records caused harm to his sisters, end quote. Here at Hidden True Crime, we cover Josh's case, and my husband and co-host, Dr. John Matthias, a criminal psychologist, has weighed in on the case. What would you have done if you learned about a 14 or 15-year-old?
I think the problem was that without a formal intervention from the state, and I guess people would argue what the appropriate intervention here is. I mean, I understand that the family had some connections with the sheriff's office, and so there was some political issues that allowed him not to have formal charges brought against him.
Juvenile charges?
Yeah, juvenile charges, right. But when he's operating within the worldview of his community, or at least his family and their church, they're going to see things very differently than the state would. The state is going to see a juvenile offender as a potential risk or future risk. And so they're not going to treat it from within a strictly religious viewpoint. They're going to treat it more from a perspective of sexual deviancy, which I think would have been much more potent under these circumstances. I mean, you can see the results now, right? That there were issues with infidelity later, and
Ashley Madison, that was another thing that happened. He was cheating on his wife. He was cheating on Anna as well. But back to the state, what would have happened had he?
Well, they would have put him into some type of adolescent sex offender treatment program, which I think potentially could have been helpful. That many adolescents who are placed in these programs, especially if they're more intensive, I don't know if it would have required that. I think it probably would have, given the number of victims, but a more intensive program, I think, would have forced him to some degree to come to terms with it, or at least develop a better understanding or more self-awareness surrounding some of his sexual impulses.
That family friend in law enforcement, also, by the way, that supposedly gave him a stern talk when he was 14 or 15. The irony is thick. He's now behind bars himself, serving 58 years for child pornography. But I've been researching a little bit more about the Duggars, and I read today that actually when he confessed to his parents, that they waited 16 months before telling authorities. So that's a little different than what I thought,
that's
too.
A problem. That would suggest there's secrets.
Yes.
That would suggest that there's something to hide in this family. I can't imagine a family this large with probably issues around supervision. You know, how do you supervise 19 kids? I mean,
You don't.
issues around supervision and extreme beliefs to some degree.
Yes,
extreme
very much
beliefs
so.
about religion and sex and probably a lot of different things that I think that this is definitely a family with secrets. And my guess is that Josh probably has a few of those secrets that he has not revealed.
To say the least. We have also covered the IBLP organization extensively after the harm it caused to many people and families over the years was highlighted on a documentary, an Amazon Prime documentary titled Shiny Happy People.
If anyone has heard about the abuse allegations against Bill Gothard was the leader of the Institute in Basic Life Principles. I even homeschooled with some of their materials when my kids were little. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I liked some of their stuff, and I used some of their stuff, and I didn't realize how horrible it was.
What do you mean by horrible?
Very toxic home environments, just defining roles in a way that kept women from being able to have a voice, that put so much pressure on men to only be a certain way, that if they were sensitive, that they might be homosexuals, and then they might have to be converted. I mean, it was just really gross. I mean, some of the stuff was basic Bible study, and that was fine, but it seemed like everything was teaching you how to be a good wife, and that your only value came if you were a wife that had many, many children. Well, my mother was a single mother who worked, and I had no brothers and sisters. So I did not really fit into this community. But I think that they wanted to try to turn me into a project or something. So they gave me my anti-makeover, which meant that I grew my hair long, and I went to some thrift stores and got some denim skirts and, some sneakers, and they taught me how to do my hair where, the half up, half down, higher the hair, the closer to God kind of thing going on. Mm-hmm. And started getting involved there. And it was just, at first, they love bomb you. And they make you feel accepted and special. But it meant so much. It meant so much to people who have been survivors of independent Baptist church toxicity and making you feel voiceless, making you feel like a guy touching you inappropriately is your fault because you decided to wear jeans that day. You know what they said about jeans? We couldn't wear jeans because the way jeans looked were an arrow straight up to our crotch.
Oh, wow. So you were choosing.
If the guy looks at your pants, it's an arrow straight up there.
Who told you that? Who told you that?
The pastor of the church that I was going to.
Wow.
And they said that at the youth conferences also when they were telling us how to dress.
Would they tell you this in front of the boys as well, or was it?
Yep,
did they separate
we said it
you
together. Nope.
But were boys allowed to wear the jeans?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. The IBLP, or Institute in Basic Life Principles, is known for their focus on large families, homeschooling, extremely strict modesty guidelines, specifically for women, including skirts or dresses only for all women, and setting a hierarchy in a family, expecting the male to be the head of the home and the woman and children to simply be submissive. The women are often encouraged not to seek higher education or work outside of the home. Rather, they need to be homemakers and just only homemakers. Running a business sounds glamorous until you're the one buried in onboarding docs, payroll, and trying to figure out tax forms late at night thinking there has to be a better way to do this. And that's where Gusto comes in. Gusto is online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It's all in one, remote friendly, and incredibly easy to use. So you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. It handles things like automatic payroll, tax filing, direct deposits, and even benefits. So instead of chasing paperwork, you can actually focus on growing your business. And I love that it includes built-in tools for onboarding and HR support, which honestly saves so much time and stress. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/hidden and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/hidden. One more time, gusto.com/hidden. The IBLP is also known for extreme discipline measures, even something called blanket training, which I would honestly consider straight up child abuse. I mean, you decide.
Michelle wrote about blanket training in this book, The Duggars, 20 and Counting, but it's actually not her technique. She got it from a book called To Train Up a Child by Michael and Debbie Pearl. This is Michael Pearl.
The rules, the principles, techniques for training an animal and a human are the same.
So this is Michael and Debbie's book. It is called To Train Up a Child. They coined the term the Pearl method. Basically, it is using corporal punishment to teach your child complete obedience. So apparently blanket training is supposed to start in infancy. You lay a blanket on the ground, you put your child on the blanket, and every time they try and roll off or crawl off, you're supposed to flick them with a flexible ruler or another object of your liking. It basically gets rid of the child's natural curiosity because they're scared to move off the blanket. Michelle wrote about blanket training very differently in her book. She didn't mention anything about corporal punishment. She made it sound very light and fun, almost entertaining for the child. But we do know from the documentary, Cousin Amy shared that she remembers them using corporal punishment on their children. She actually remembers them being spanked with rods, and this is what she said.
Did you see your cousins being punished with rods?
And they called it encouragement. They literally said, you need to come into the room and we need to give you some encouragement. But it was in like the sweetest tone ever of like, do you need encouragement? I think you need encouragement.
Here's what Michelle had to say about blanket training in her book. Throughout the day, when I knew I would have 5 minutes or more of uninterrupted time, I would focus on blanket training, calling out, okay, boys, it's blanket time. Oh, isn't this fun? Come pick a toy so we can have blanket time. Some days we might practice blanket time 3 or 4 times. Other days we only got it in once. But gradually it became a common practice. The boys learned to spread out their own blankets, then they eagerly chose a special toy to play with. Gradually, I increased the duration of blanket time, praising them for sitting quietly and playing with their toy in the blanket and correcting them when they tried to get off. If they threw the toy off the blanket, they weren't allowed to get off the blanket to get it back, and as a result, they learned not to throw their toys. As the blanket training continued over several days, I would walk around the corner out of their sight, but still able to peek around and see them. If one of them made a loud noise or got off the blanket, I would come flying in with a stern word and a quick correction. I didn't raise my voice and I didn't sound angry, but it was almost obvious that crawling off the blanket or making noise wasn't allowed.
For practice, okay, mama, sit really still. Look at me with big old smile. Want to see that smile now? No wiggles.
Self-control. That's chips. And then a bridge to the initial prompting of God's parent.
That's right. And Josie practices self-control the first time. She instantly obeys. And she runs and gets on the bed. That's right. Josie is a big girl. She's practicing self-control. Yay, Josie.
And then obey to the little prompting of God's parent.
Can you see how
The goal is to teach them to be submissive to authority and strict obedience, essentially breaking their spirit like you would a horse or something. And it's not just the Duggars who use blanket training. The sister, by the way, of infamous child abuser Ruby Frankie, has also promoted the practice on her YouTube channel, although there is no known connection to the Frankie family and the IBLP.
This alone has kept my sanity, and that is no lie. I read the books Baby Wise and I follow them, and in the book it recommends blanket time. Now when I first start, I lay a blanket down where I want them. When I give them toys, I choose toys specific for that kid that I know that they're not going to be bored. It's really good for their attention spans because you only give them, you know, just a handful of toys, not a lot. When you first begin, you're gonna feel frustrated. You're going to feel like it's a waste of your time, but if you stay consistent with it, then it will get better, and it really will. You'll see a difference in the way your kids behave. When you're first teaching them, you can't do anything else. All you're doing is teaching them, and I'll just sit right here by the blanket and I'll watch them play. I won't play with them. I won't show them what to play with. I just watch them. Even if they sit there and scream, that's literally what they do most of the time, is just sit there and scream. They will get the hang of it. There are many different reasons that you could benefit from blanket time, but I'll tell you the reasons why I started doing it. Olivia was almost 2, so I started it when she was a little bit older, but I could not get her to sit for the life of me. We would go to the doctor's office and she would be all over the place. I would ask her to sit on a chair and she just wouldn't do it. It was as if I wasn't even there asking her to do it. When we were at church, she would not sit on the bench, and I would pack a whole bag of toys and she'd go through that entire bag and be done with it in 20 minutes, 15, 10 minutes. It was terrible, and I just thought, I have got to get a grip on this. Are all little kids this way? And the answer to that is yes, but the trick is teaching them how you want them to behave. Kids will learn anything if you just teach them and if you stay consistent with it. That's the biggest thing with this. In the beginning with blanket time, you are going to feel like it's a disaster. And it is. It's really hard, and I have a headache every time I start, but if you stick with it, you will be able to tell your child to sit on a blanket, play with a few toys, and I leave my kids there for up to an hour. And the reason that I chose an hour is because that's how long sacrament is. That's how long a lot of meetings that we go to are. And so you start with about 10 to 15 minutes and you work your way up, and it depends on their age as well. I do not like to set a timer because something that this teaches is that blanket time starts when mom says and blanket time ends when mom says. If they're being really, really good, I'm not gonna take them off the blanket. They can stay and do what they're doing, even if it's past the time that the timer says. Or if blanket time needs to end a little bit early because they are just not having it that day, because sometimes that's gonna be the case, then you can say, okay, mommy says blanket time is over, and you can let your little one run off the blanket, because what you really don't want to do is for the child to say, I'm done doing this, and get off the blanket. That doesn't teach him to be obedient. That doesn't teach him to listen to what you're saying.
The Duggars' active involvement in the IBLP was so intense. It included homeschooling their children under the ATI program, which is a program created by the IBLP. After his parents learned Josh had molested his sisters, rather than immediately getting authorities involved. And they did have a friend that was a police officer talk to Josh, but rather than Josh facing those consequences under the law for a juvenile, they instead had him do counseling through a religious program. And then eventually his parents had him go confess, in their own words.
Let me move back up to the therapy, because you sent Josh to this treatment center.
Yes.
But was there more therapy for Josh and or the girls?
Yes. What happened was, when Josh came back from Little Rock, and we felt like the last step was to make things right with the law, because he had broken the law. And so we took him down to the local police station, actually the closest one to our house, and it was Arkansas State Police headquarters, and walked in and talked to a man there and told him.
Let me stop you there.
Yes.
What was that like? I mean, how do you make the decision as a parent to bring your child to law enforcement and turn him over?
We felt like it was an important step for Josh to confess to the police what he had done, because he had broken the law. And we felt like if we didn't do this, that this would be something hanging over his head the rest of his life.
I could share more about the IBLP organization, and I might soon on another episode. But here's what's important to know. In the last several years, many of the older Duggar children have cut ties with their IBLP connections and have also distanced themselves from their family. The most vocal being Jill Duggar, who appeared on the documentary Shiny Happy People to share her own story. It's a documentary Hidden True Crime recommends. It's unclear whether Joseph and his wife Kendra are still active participants in the IBLP, although some signs have pointed to their continued involvement. But we don't know with certainty. As for Joseph Duggar, according to records, on Friday, March 20th, he will make his first court appearance, where he will face the extradition issue. I'm sure there will be much more about his case coming down in the next few days. There is also some speculation on who the victim is, as some sleuths have already uncovered who was on vacation with Joseph and Kendra in 2020 in Panama City, Florida, and it included a 9-year-old girl. But we won't make suggestions without confirmation nor without permission from the victim. But Hidden True Crime is continuing to cover and follow the investigation closely, and will keep you updated on everything that you need to know, along with Dr. John joining in with his thoughts once we have more information. Until then, thank you for subscribing to our channel. Thank you for subscribing to our podcast. And thank you for your support as we continue to follow some of the most unimaginable crimes.